Hello and welcome back to Workflows and Espressos. I am like triple happy to be here today because I have one of my very dear friends with me who is going to enlighten us all with her wisdom today. Bradie, welcome to Workflows and Espressos.
Thank you so much for having me. Very happy to be here. And I did bring a gift for you to give your listeners. I don't really know how you do that. I don't really know how podcasts work. I just listen to them. But my husband roasts coffee. So I brought a 3-pound bag of coffee for you to give to somebody.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Okay. I will think through a giveaway strategy of how we can get people to enter. And what's the coffee called?
Common Good.
Common Good, which I feel is a very popular coffee brand. Is this true?
Really? I don't know. I mean, I think for the common good, like it's a popular name of a company.
Yeah.
But I hope there's not any other coffee roasters named Common Good.
No, I think it's him that I'm thinking of. But we also talked about this a long time ago, and I remember like so intrigued that your husband was in the coffee business.
I know.
And okay, so a 3-pound bag of Common Good for the listeners.
Yes.
I'm very excited. Bradie, you and I have been friends for a couple of years now.
Yes.
So tell the listeners, number one, I think we met in Kansas City. Is this correct?
Yeah, I hijacked. We were supposed to sell you. I was supposed to come help sell you. And then I think we just spent the entire lunch realizing that we were twin souls.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Kaylee got a word in edgewise.
And then I remember being like, everywhere I go, I'm going to find Bradie at her booth and I'm going to sit with her and I will forget all responsibilities and she will forget all responsibilities and we will talk the entire time.
Yeah.
So you've been in the industry for a while now. 10 years?
Yes. Like I was just talking to somebody about this. I think 17 years, which makes me feel way older than I am. But yeah.
Wow. Okay. Always on the supplier side or on the PM side as well?
No, I actually started with a small inn that I renovated with my dad and then hired managers to live on site. And then we added units that we started vacation renting. And so I was doing a lot of Googling at that time. And then we eventually handed that over to a vacation rental management company out of Telluride. So that was my intro to this world. And then my first on my own big girl job was in San Diego. And I went to work for Blue Water Vacation Homes. Mm-hmm. And I worked for Paul for 7 years. So that's where I really learned the nuts and bolts. And then I switched to the supplier side in 2018. I went to work for LiveRes, which is a PMS. And then most recently was with Sojo, which they do amenity automation. Yeah.
17 years. That's okay.
I
So
know.
You're kind of like me, where this is all you've really ever done, or the only big industry you've ever really worked in, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. And it's one of those things I think similar to a lot of people. It was it is still I think a great just out of college job. It was so fun. The bonding that you have on Saturdays, waiting for those calls to come in. You just have to make it fun or it's the worst. Mm-hmm. So it's just a bunch of mid-20s, super bright, competent, hardworking people that, we would work till 10 following up on guests and you're 2 blocks from the beach and then we would go out in PB and do it all again the next day. And you got to be willing to work weekends, which is, ideal for young people.
I can, as you're talking, I have flashbacks to those days at 360 Blue and how fun it is or was. And it was all these people that were the same age and you're doing this very shitty job right? Where
Yes.
you're just talking to people who are berating you on the phone every single day, but it's like so fun. And
Yes.
I
Yeah.
feel like those are the companies that are successful that like are able to have this culture that makes something that is shitty still fun. And like the reason why
Yeah.
you don't mind answering calls from people who are berating you because you really like
Yeah.
your coworkers.
I feel like slightly different like lens, but it's similar to the service industry. And I love working with and hiring people from the service industry because if you're not with people that you love and that you trust and you have that bond with, it is one of the worst jobs. It's awful. Especially, I mean, I my opinion is you have like, it's 50-50. 50% of your guests are amazing. Like some of the best connections you'll make. You learn so much from them. You get exposed to, different lifestyles and great guests. And then 50% are just, a spectrum of not that pleasant to how do you exist in the world? Like how do you still have people who want to go on vacation with you?
Yeah.
I think it's just money at that point.
Yeah. Right. They paid for it.
But I remember like, I was 25, checking in a guest that had paid $20,000 for the week and doing the walkthrough. And I'm like young, touring this really expensive home, teaching them about it. And they were on the less pleasant end of the spectrum. And I like, at one point, the woman, I think it was the matriarch, she stopped me and she said, "Don't be cavalier with me." And I just called like one of my coworkers. I was like, someone needs to tap in. Like, I'm going to ruin this. I need out now, please. And like, when you have a team that like trusts you and knows he was there within 5 minutes and totally saved it. And I feel like you have to have that in that pace. The pressure's on, it's not as short as a meal, but like you've got 3 to 7 days to really wow them. And so much can go wrong, especially with like coastal homes and
pool heaters. I remember that was like the bane of our existence. It was, and now thinking about it and like what you're saying, it's so strange to be surrounded by such wealth at such a young age.
Yes. Yeah.
And becoming almost just like immune to it. Like I remember booking my first $15,000 reservation. It was for a home in watercolor, and it was for spring break, and getting off the phone and turning to my coworkers and being like, one family just spent $15,000 for 1 week on vacation. And now it's like, eventually you come in contact with $60,000, $70,000, $100,000 weeks on vacation. But I also remember we do walkthroughs of these homes that were coming on the program. And when I first started, I would be like, oh my God, this is the most insane home I've ever been in my life. And then 6 years later, I'd go see a $10 million property and be like, well, they really could have built the bathroom differently, but it's fine, I guess. And it's so bizarre. Like, I don't know. I feel like it's such a unique job to be exposed to like that type of wealth at a really young age.
Yes. And I think like it demands such a jack of all trades type person to do well, because you need someone who can answer your emergency line at 9 p.m. and not totally fumble a conversation about resetting the Wi-Fi or the AC is out, or so I feel like it attracts people who can kind of figure out a lot of different things.
I agree. And just like the people skills that are required to talk to CEOs of Fortune 500 companies and neurosurgeons. The pressure there, I remember just feeling so intensely. And I've always called people by their first names. Like I would not, if you were a homeowner, be like, "Oh, hello, Mrs. Beagley-Reiner."
Yes.
Always be like, "Hey, Bradie." And I remember some people being like taken aback by this like level of casualness. And But having to like go into these homes and talk about revenue with the CEO or COO of Cisco Foods and being like, what is this job that I have? I have no training to do this.
I know. Yes.
Okay. So you've recently made a big transition in your career, which I am super excited to talk about. And you decided to leave your job of several years and start your own company.
Yes.
And I'm just tickled pink about it. So when thinking about leaving your job, there are so many things, security being one of them. I mean, I would call you and say, hey, I need to quit my job. I think for probably 18 months before I actually quit my job. And it was just like, there was so much security that was tied into having this stable income and knowing what to expect. And even if I wasn't the happiest, it was like the devil I knew versus the devil I didn't know. And so I'm curious, did you have this 18-month Meaghan situation where you were like, you know, I'm really thinking that I need to leave, or this isn't where I see myself in the next 5 years? Or did you have this moment where maybe you felt unhappy, but you couldn't connect it to your job? And then finally you were like, oh, I realized that it's my job and I need to quit my job. Like, how did that work for you?
I think I was given a gift of, I had become aware internally that things were changing and that I would need to adapt if I was going to continue to excel in this role. I think it was a startup company. And I was one of the first hires and I built out my team. And so you've been a part of a startup, the energy in that beginning state, like I was working so hard, and was just like thrilled, by the like pace, and I didn't care. The energy from those early days was like really invigorating. But I also, I was there for 3 years, and I think the pace of growth was so, like when we would tell people our client growth, they would just like jaw drop. And it was so fast and so fun. Again, that has been a theme with me in my career. It's just like working with a team that I really love and I really trust. And this was the first time that I got to build my team totally from scratch, which was so cool. Such a unique opportunity. But I think in the last, 9 months, I knew that I needed to adapt in order to excel the way that I had in the beginning stages. And it just wasn't happening. And I leadership, I was getting feedback about that. But I think I thought the problem was me. And so I would just double down and work longer and work harder. And eventually they kind of came to a head, and they made a pretty big decision about leadership structure. And it was just like a moment of clarity for me that all the preceding emotions behind that became really clear in that moment of oh, I don't fit here anymore. It's been so fun, and I've gotten to build this, and I've gotten to contribute in so many great ways. But that big decision that they made just made it super clear that there's no way I can fit into that and continue to be me and pursue the things that I want to pursue. So in a lot of ways, that was a gift, because I probably would have continued to beat my head at that and, burn out a ton just from trying to find alignment with a role that was growing in a very different direction than I wanted to grow. Mm-hmm. So I think the groundwork had been laid slowly, and I didn't realize how tired I was until I was officially done with the job. Mm-hmm. And how yeah, emotionally tired, just really burnt out. I think I've talked to you about this before, but I had restarted therapy back in around the time that they kind of let me know about this decision. And I told them, like, that's just not going to work for me. And I'm totally here for the transition and I want success for this team. I love this team. And I don't know, that was phase one of like, I don't fit here anymore. Let me go find where I fit. And I think phase two, I wouldn't have come to if I wasn't in therapy. And you and I have talked about parts work, which has been amazing. But for people who don't know, internal family systems is a framework of, I think, like therapeutic work that I think the concept is that we're not one mind, like you're not just one single person inside of you. Yeah, like there are a lot of parts. There's part of you that wants to, for me, I just want to like go into the forest and live
off the land,
live off the grid. Yeah, like I want to eat mushrooms all day and build tree forts. And then there's the part of me that loved building out a startup, working with a startup and building that team out, and the pace of that and how corporate it was. Like I loved it. And I think those parts compete. But anyway, I don't think I would have gotten to the second part, which was the part where I was like, I don't think I want to go contribute to someone else's vision at this point in my life. I want to try to figure out what it looks like to bring to reality a lot of the vision that I've started to create over 17 years working in this industry. And like, what does that look like for me? And can I figure that out? But I wouldn't have been able to make that decision without help.
Startups can be so, like, you and I are similar, right? Where like the only type of environment I've ever really wanted to work in is in a small, like scrappy startup. Like large corporate companies, I interviewed with a lot of them when I was leaving 360 and always kind of came back to this same, like, the whole reason I'm leaving 360 is because we were purchased and things are really corporate now. I want something that's small and scrappy and fast moving. But there is this part where as soon as a startup reaches like X level, you have to reevaluate. And there are always these, I don't know, I think there's like benchmarks along the startup journey where you have to evaluate, like, is this still part of the culture that I really like? Or have we gotten like maybe too corporate and this isn't for me anymore? And it can be heartbreaking, I think, because so much of working at a startup is investing like your heart and soul into it. And so when it is time to leave, I don't know, I had like a big identity crisis when I left 360 Blue and was like, so much of who I am, I've tied to working for this company. And now I have to go and figure out who I am without this company. And it was necessary, but really hard. Like, did you have that experience too?
Yeah. I mean, I think like this is a career that I built, not one that I paid for to get access, like with a degree or, and so I felt really proud of where I had gotten to at that point. I had, gotten myself a title that I felt proud of, and I had a seat at the table with leadership, and I was attending board meetings, and that, I don't think that I realized the grief that I would go through until I had left. I think I like dissociated from that while I was still there, just knowing like that sadness is hard to like show up to Zoom calls. You don't want to like be feeling it in the middle of it. And I think that that's so normal for any change. Even if I had stayed, if I had decided there's still opportunities for me to learn here, there would have been grief for me to work through with, the bigness of the changes that they were making kind of at the leadership level.
Mm-hmm. How did you emotionally prepare for the uncertainty of starting your own business?
I didn't. I think, I'm like a phase person. And so when I'm in that phase, I'm like a one-trick pony. And for me, it really has been the parts work that I've been doing in therapy. And a lot of that is just helping you. I think there are a lot of different ways to say it, but like regulate your nervous system, come back to a place of calm, like regenerative emotions, choosing to validate but quiet the stress, the anxiety, and to lean into the gratitude, the clarity, the courage, all of those things that like give you a positive motion forward instead of kind of the propulsion you can get from stress and anxiety that help you produce something, but it just feels so manic and so stressful.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I like acknowledged them and would talk through them, but it certainly wasn't like a wait until they're gone and then I'll make this decision. It was like deep breaths through, this is scary. And weirdly, in acknowledging them and just continuing to move forward anyway, there was a clarity and like peace that was so affirming of like, yeah, I am willingly giving up my income. Like there's so much about this that should feel so scary. And I have a kid but it was, I just felt a lot of peace and clarity of just like, gosh, it's weird that I don't feel more stressed. And I think I would look at people in my life asking me questions, like I would see the panic in their eyes. And normally I think I would kind of take that on myself, but this was just something that felt so right despite how much I didn't have figured out.
Mm-hmm. Do you have what's your advice for someone who knows that it's time to leave their job and really wants to start something themselves? Do you have advice for how to tackle that?
I think with any big decision, like when you say at that high level, that's a huge decision, that's a massive life change. And I think that those things can be paralyzing. And I was just on a retreat and learned this exercise that was like so helpful. It was by an author. His name's Sean Tinney. And I think he called it a personal review, but it was like 8 steps. So list out 3 things you want more of in your life. List out 3 things you want less of in your life. 6 actions that you either need to start or stop doing for each of those 6 things. And then practices that contain those actions that you want to start doing. So if it's like movement, yoga could be the practice, or Zumba or whatever, a marathon. And then where are the points of resistance that will stand in the way of your actions and practices? And then this one was the one that I think felt really pivotal, but what is something that you know in your heart that your mind is not ready to accept? And I feel like when you're asking the question, I know, because you're kind of like, fuck. You know it, you are aware of it all the time. But when you're point blank asked the question, you can't ignore it anymore.
Wow.
And I feel
can't stop thinking about that. That is so good.
I know. And then what would acceptance look like? Like, what would it happen if you accepted the thing that you already know is true? And then, like, what's the theme? Name it. And once it emerges, claim that this is, for us, we just did it. So he had us claim, this is the summer of blank. Like, this is the theme of all of this. And this is the summer of. And so I feel like the nice thing about that exercise is it tackles it at every level. Like, it makes it so small. Like, 3 things that you want more of, that's so easy. Like, anyone could list that. But then by giving it a theme, you're also, even if it's in such a micro way, you're pointing yourself toward something that, yeah, it's small over time, but it's like those, I forget what they're called, but like change it 10% and you're still way over here in 6 months.
I really could have used this in my first marriage. It really would have benefited me to do this exercise.
I know, yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I'm like obsessed. I should have.
I know.
I need you to text me those. So
I will, yeah.
Okay. I'm going to do this practice. So, I mean, it's been a couple of months, so obviously still early, but have there been things like, have you noticed any definite pros or cons yet of working for yourself?
Yes. So I think the pros, and we've talked about this a little bit, but like working for a company, you are just like a representative of that company. And so at the end of the day, you have to say things that are aligned with that company. And I think that's been the biggest like relief is this is mine to win or lose. Like, this is all on me, and I can tell the truth. Like, I can say whatever I want to say, even if I'm, shooting myself in the foot or I'm losing a potential client. For me, that has always been one of my top professed values is honesty and integrity. And I think when you work in any vendor space of any industry, like at the end of the day, it's your job to get and keep clients. And so, I wasn't lying, but I also, if I looked at their tech stack, there were times where I might want to tell them like, you don't need this, or you're not at a stage that you like in a year or 2 years, you'll want this, but you're just way too small, or you are, you're trying to bring this on in July, like this is going to fail, but like you can't say those things because it's just not the way that corporate jobs work. So I think that freedom has been the biggest pro, is just like win or lose, this is all on me. And that is so freeing. And then the con is obviously it's all on you, like the income, all of it, like it's yours to make or break. So yeah, 2 sides of the same coin.
I also suppose I should ask you, tell us about your new business.
Yeah. That's been super cool too. I think like when I slowly decided and accepted that I had decided that I was going to start my own thing, I just started calling everyone in my network and like telling them what I was thinking and getting feedback. And again, like it was so freeing to be able to just be super honest. Like, this is where I'm at. I don't have a client yet, or I have one client and this is how it's going. And to be able to get like real time, really candid feedback from people about what I was doing, because it was mine to disclose, has been so cool. So my new company is called Daylight Collaborative. And I really want to be kind of the synergy of like a consultant and like the actual contractor who's executing the work. And so I want to be not just a strategic partner of like let's analyze it, let's figure out what you want to do. And then I also want to do the work. So really focused on operations and tech stack. And I think the biggest thing is, let me read you with ChatGPT's help.
Honestly, like,
yeah,
because I'm like,
help me.
Do you think she's a woman or a man? Have you thought about this, by the way? Do you personify ChatGPT at all?
So I think they're a them. Like, it feels so collective. It feels like everyone in the world who's ever lived is in this like one voice, because it's such an amalgamation of knowledge and information that I'm like, I have to think. Otherwise, they become like a god, or I don't know, something weird, or like a robot from a dystopian. I have lots of different parts that I could like digress. And yeah.
I didn't know this, but you can talk to ChatGPT like a person.
I don't like it. Yeah, I don't do that.
So
I know.
I did it for the first time on Friday. I haven't done it since. And I literally was on my couch being like, so then blah, 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 blah. And this happened too. Like, what do you even think about that? And it would pause. And then she'd be like, you know, Meaghan, I completely agree with you. Like, it was the craziest experience of my life.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I can do it again, because it was, like, I know, it was like a little bit too dystopian.
Yes. And I've read a lot about how agreeable it's built to be. And so like it can be an echo chamber. So I think, using it with discretion and like awareness of that.
She's supportive as hell, but she does agree. She tends to be always on my side.
Yeah.
Okay, read it. Sorry.
Okay. I'm the person operators call when their team is maxed out and something important needs to get done. I step in as a fractional project manager and tech ops partner for vacation rental businesses, handling the kind of behind the scenes work that drives real growth.
I love it.
That's ChatGPT's pitch for me.
I think it's,
but I think that's like a huge thing. Is I remember when I started attending conferences when I was with Blue Water, and I loved that because I loved doing like the ops. I loved being in it and getting my hands dirty with my team. Like I loved doing inspections, and I would learn something and tweak our process every time. And I loved interacting with housekeepers and getting their feedback and improving the way that we, our vendor relations and all of that. But then I also I would go to conferences, and I was on advisory boards for our PMS, and I loved that high level too. And I would interact with people, because a lot of people who attend conferences are like owner operators, and entrepreneurs are, known for not being able to delegate and not being able to, like, they want to do it all. They just they'll grind it out. Yeah. But I would interact with people there, and they'd be like, how do I find someone like you? Like, I want more people, like I want more thought partners that want to get involved. I want people who maybe they did take it as their just out of college job, but they love it and they want to grow. Mm-hmm. And I found that a lot. And so I think this is a weird path for me to get to in my career, but like a lot of teams need someone and crave someone like that, but they just don't have the resources for a full-time person. And so to be able to offer that on a fractional, like I can come in and support them part-time or project-based as they need support in that way. And to have a thought partner that is an agnostic voice that is no longer, on the payroll for any specific vendor feels like, a really cool convergence of all of my experience and background to come back to this operator side and get my hands dirty again with everything that I've learned on the supplier side.
Mm-hmm. What do you have like a dream like project that would be like perfect for you that you could see yourself working on? Like when you think of like what would be really cool or badass to take on, what do you imagine?
I mean, what I'm getting the most of are PMS migrations. As you know, I'm getting brought in the middle because that's usually when people realize how much work it is.
Yeah.
So that's something that like I have empathy for that pain and for just when people realize how much data they've accumulated in one system over 10 years or however many years they've been on it. But I think I love problem solving on operations. So anything that touches housekeeping, inspections, inventory management, and workflows with inventory, any consumables. Especially, that's been the last 3 years is really getting into people's operations, like seeing how they store stuff and who picks it up from where, and then where do they take it and how long does it sit there? And then what are all the pain points along the way? Like where are they losing stuff and where are they losing money and where are they just getting so much, where is their team complaining? What are the really painful parts? Are they losing employees because this is just unrealistic to ask of an entry-level job out of college? So I love any kind of problem solving on an ops side.
Same. I think it's our brains that are wired for like the startup life that like quick moving and difficult to solve puzzles.
Yeah.
But it is so, I don't know. And the issues that can arise in inventory management. And that's one thing that I've gotten a lot more involved in on the In-Haven side. And it's been so interesting because I had never really been like that close to it before. Okay. So you just also got back from this retreat, Matt Landau's retreat, and I am very curious to hear about it. One, do you recommend? And two, like, what were your biggest takeaways? You were in Costa Rica.
Yeah. So I've known Matt Landau for probably a decade now. Blue Water, he partnered early on with LiveRes, and they sponsored, I want to say it was the whole first season of his show. At that time, it was called A Sense of Place. And so I want to say there were like 5 different LiveRes partners, that's what they call their clients, who hosted him for a week. And then kind of like each location had a different flow and different ethos. And I put together the whole schedule for him when he was in San Diego. And that was so cool because everything that he did was either like a side hustle of someone on our team, or so he went to a brewery with me and our like tech contractor, who's just one of the most knowledgeable people about craft beer that I've ever met. Zyra, who was doing sales at that time, set up a day trip for him down to Baja, to Mexico's like wine country, Valle de Guadalupe. Another one of our inspectors had a bonfire, like a beach bonfire. So they set up a bonfire. It was just very cool how much like everything was from within our team, but he got like it felt like a real taste of what San Diego, like the heartbeat of San Diego was at that time. And we like just connected. He also brought his mom on that one. And so we've stayed close. And I've like followed his journey. And he recently started a new, I don't know if it's called a company, but yeah, he's doing these business retreats. It's called Here Goes Nothing. And I think anyone in the industry who has followed him as long as I have has like watched this just, yeah, where his career could have gone one way. This is just such a different offshoot. And so I, with a lot of other people, watched the beginning of these, like, what is this? What is this? What's he doing?
Yeah.
Super curious. And I talked to him right around the time that I had left my job. And he was like, I really think you should come. And it felt like a weird time. Like I was losing my income. It was like a weird time to be like, yeah, let me go relax in the Costa Rican jungle. But I said yes. And oh my God, yeah, 10 out of 10 recommend anybody who is open and curious. I think that is one of the main things. Because I think for me, it was a group of 15 very open, curious people. Mm-hmm. And the depth, it was immediately obvious, like the depth of conversation, the vulnerability. And it wasn't in like a, I don't know, quickest person to the most personal information disclosed. It was not that, it wasn't right. Like a, but it was just, there was no performance. There was no one was posturing. Everyone was very immediately open and vulnerable about why they were there, what brought them there. Yeah, it was, I had also recently attended an industry conference, which was great. But especially where I'm at right now, like there is a pressure to like perform and to posture, and having come out of corporate world where everything is spin and positioning, and this was, yeah, like the ethos of this is the opposite of that. It's, yeah, bringing the whole human to, it is a business retreat. So like everyone there is trying to solve something with their career or work. Yeah. But like, it was just, there was no posturing. You didn't have to list KPIs or, so good. It was a really curious group of humans interacting in like very candid and going through exercises like the one that I told you about, where you're just getting the kind of feedback that I've never gotten from a group of strangers before.
Mm-hmm. What were your biggest takeaways leaving?
I think, one, it was obvious that like all of us had, I think, a really similar experience of like, this was amazing. And there was no magic there. Like, it's not like, there wasn't something that happened or something that we did that we couldn't have accessed at home. It was just a level of candor and vulnerability that we were all willing to show up with. And I think that was like, oh, like light bulb moment was like, this is something I could invite into my life everywhere. Like, yeah. Just pursuing more authenticity, being more honest, saying the thing that feels scary to say in micro moments over and over throughout my day, is like a pursuit toward what we experienced here.
Mm-hmm. There is something about authentic spaces, like especially coming from the supplier world when you do have to be on all the time. Like that was the biggest thing that I've noticed. Switching from a PM to a supplier, like conferences are very different. And there are a lot of outcomes that you're hoping for that, as a PM, I'd go to a conference and be like, hope I learn a couple things. Like I'm going to hang out with my friends and it's going to be great. And it is not like that anymore. And it's great, but it's in a different way, right? And you leave and like there's a new level of exhausted that exists. And so being able to come, like to go on a trip for work that is like completely there to like be this authentic space of connection and creativity is really, really cool. I told Bradie earlier that as soon as I pushed this baby out or the baby was cut out, which hopefully happened, but we'll see. And then, weaned them, then felt like I had any pants to fit into, then I would be there.
You can wear a dress.
Yeah, exactly. I know people keep being like, you're going to be absolutely miserable this summer being pregnant, which one, it's like, thank you for telling me. But two, I live in Jackson, Wyoming. There is no humidity here. I'm going to be like smiling from ear to ear, not having to fit into any pants, wearing a dress. I cannot wait.
Yeah.
It's going to be incredible. I also have to say that for everyone listening, Bradie has gotten me, I don't know if you know this, the most meaningful gift I think maybe I've ever been given in my life, but she got me a gift when I first told her that I was pregnant and wrote me a letter. And I recently read the letter to my therapist 2 weeks ago, and me and my therapist cried. Both of us. It was like, it is so sweet. She told me that I should frame it. So I'm planning on framing the letter that you wrote me and hanging it in my house. So for anyone who's listening that is in needing of some gift giving advice, I've got Bradie here on the line, and she's who you need to be talking to.
That's so funny. Like when I was still at Blue Water, I toyed with creating a website where if you had a difficult conversation or email or text you needed to send to a parent or a sibling or a friend, that like I would help you write that text or write that email or script that conversation. Ryan and I just started the rehearsal. Have you seen it?
No.
It's wild.
I'm going to write it down.
It is a different version of what I had wanted to do. But yeah, I feel like that is one of my secret superpowers, is distilling an essence of a feeling that you need to convey to somebody into words.
Yeah, you certainly have it, because I can't read that. Number one, I keep it on my desk at all times. It's right next to me. Number two, anytime I read it, I cry. So that's still a business opportunity for you. ChatGPT could not have written that and gotten that response from me. I can assure you. And she helps with a lot of things. Okay. What is your new founder CEO morning routine? Has it changed?
Good question. Yes, I think it's been months, but I'm decompressing still from the pace and schedule that I was adhering to. Mm-hmm. And I think I've started to organize my days more. Like on Mondays, I kind of like catch up on email and I look at everything that I want to accomplish for the week. On Tuesdays, I do all of my our family and personal admin, errands, that type of thing. And so just trying to do, cousins of the same tasks and work on the same day has been huge. So I think mornings have kind of naturally aligned that way. And I have a 4-year-old. So this period has been so nice and welcome to just get more time with her. Mm-hmm. And with the new flexibility, I will go to yoga or take a walk or a hike in the middle of the day so that I can have a slow morning with her, or pick her up early from work or from school. So it's still very fluid. Like I'm still very much in like a decompression, figuring it out. What is this going to look like when I'm setting my own schedule and I'm setting my own pace? And I think that's a thing on its own for me. Like I've always been someone who will just make myself available whenever.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a moment of like pause and intention when I was setting up my calendar of like, when am I going to be available to people? Like, is it truly going to be, if you want to meet on a Saturday, I will meet with you on a Saturday? And I think that I felt that coming from the operator side to the supplier side. I was very aware of like, operators are on all the time. And so having suppliers not be available on the weekend sometimes feels like a slap in the face.
Yeah.
But I think I've gotten to a point, and that's what, one of the many reasons that I'm excited about the work that I'm doing now is like, you can design that however you want it. If you want to be, if you love it, if you're single, you don't have a family, and like your job is your life right now, be available all the time. Like, lean into what is exciting for you. But if you want to build structure and boundaries, like through workflows and automation and good tech, like you can totally do that. You can make this work more balanced work. Like it doesn't have to be what I think it's been for a long time, where people just grind it out and they exhaust themselves until they eventually are like, I have to sell.
Yeah. I think it's been really interesting. I noticed this at my last job, like the push and pull between employees who are in their like 50s and 60s versus employees that are in their 20s and 30s. There was this expectation that you'd show up at work, you'd have to be there at 9 a.m., like ass in seat, and you'd stay there until 5 p.m. You'd take a 1-hour lunch break. Like working from home is not a thing. And this like from us who are in our 30s, and for people who are in their 20s, even more than us, there is this acceptance of this like flexible workspace that I'm really excited to see evolve in the next like several years. And that's been really nice at Inhaven. I thought I would hate working from home. I was really nervous about it. I'm such a social being. And I don't know if it's because I'm pregnant. And so like I've wanted to sit in my sweatpants at my house, but it has been really nice and feels, even though I am on calls all the time, there is this flexibility I feel like that still exists, where in between calls I'll go and walk. Or like if I'm not on the phone, or if I don't have something I need to be doing at that exact moment, I can like go check the mail or drive into town and run an errand. And that has been so nice that like didn't really exist for me before.
Right. Yeah.
I'm loving it. And I'm like so freaking excited for you. And I can't wait to hear how the next year and 2 years goes. So I have 2 questions left. Number 1. Excuse me.
The pregnancy out of breath.
Yeah.
I don't know, you need to get the cans of oxygen. They only sell that in like mountain towns where we live, but I feel like you need a supply.
Yeah.
Have one for your car, for your desk.
Yeah, it's getting like so bad. Okay. Number 1, like TLDR, if someone listens to the last 5 minutes of this, like what would you want them to know? A couple rapid fire things if they are looking to make a big move in their career, or kind of doing some soul searching on what they want their job or personal life to look like in the next couple of years. And then number 2, which is less exciting, is how can people get in contact with you that need your help?
TLDR, I think I'm going to go back to the Sean Tinney, like what is something that you know in your heart that your mind is not ready to accept? And I think just that awareness, which, I hadn't done so explicitly before the retreat last week, but, was kind of what I had gone through in the decision to leave my job. But just even having an awareness that like, you don't have to change anything. You don't have to do anything today, but being aware of it is often the first step. And I think the second thing is kind of like we build up our fear or anxiety of, the worst case. I am not doing this because whatever this big balloon fantasy is that I'm afraid is going to happen. And I think even if there is always validity in those fears, like there's something true in there, but it's going to look different than that. And usually it's so inflated in the echo chamber of your anxiety, not grounded with feedback from anybody else, because usually those things, if your heart knows it and your mind won't accept it yet, then you're probably not talking to other people about it. And so it's not getting infused with reality. And I think just like saying those scary things out loud, where it's like, I'm afraid of not having an income, and like what that means, and walking it out with somebody, it just makes it so much more manageable, and it makes it so much less scary. Like it's no longer tied to your identity, and it's just a problem that you have to solve when you allow it to breathe in real time with other people who love you and support you and will help you. Mm-hmm. So I feel like, whatever the distillation of those two things are, of intuition and not protecting your fears from breathing in real life with people who love you and want the best for you. Mm-hmm. And it's just crazy, like how much we let those things control us, because in a group of 15 people, people were like saying their deepest fears out loud. And you're like interacting with that person like you're so competent. Like you have nothing to be afraid of. And knowing that's not how fear works. But like when you have that many people doing it collectively, like how much power it loses almost immediately that you find in saying it out loud, which I've done a ton in parts work. It's like, it's so obvious what the next tiny step is going to be. Like, what's the next thing that you have to do? And you don't have to make it some big, you got to quit your job today. Like, it's just the next right thing that you have to do.
Mm-hmm. Glennon Doyle always says, do the next right thing, one thing at a time.
I mean, we watch a lot of Frozen in my house, so we also talk a lot about the next.
Well, listen, if you decide to pivot from Daylight Collab, there is always a role as a therapist and a career coach, and I would certainly hire you. So I'll be here.
Thank you. High praise.
Okay. And how do people get in contact with you?
They can email me at Bradie, Bradie, at daylightcollab.com. Or they can go to daylightcollab.com, and I have a couple resources. I have a find your pain assessment, which I just finished building, which I'm really excited. I'll send it to you. And it kind of like walks you through identifying pain points and then putting them in a impact effort matrix. Have you ever done those?
No.
Oh, I love them. Again, some of the same stuff, like the stuff that really you worry about, and then just breaking it down into very achievable steps. So probably, one of those two ways. And I'll send it to you so you can, I don't know much about podcast.
I'll put it in the show notes.
Okay.
I'll put it in the show notes. And if you want to enter the giveaway for Common Good, you can, I'm going to post this episode on LinkedIn. And if you comment anything, maybe your takeaway from this episode, then we will enter you in the giveaway and send you the coffee. Bradie, I love you so freaking much. Thank you so much for your time. I value it deeply, and I have absolutely loved talking to you. And I'm so excited to release this episode and for everybody to hear all the amazing wisdom that you have.
Thank you.
You're going to be amazing, and we're all going to watch.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks for having me.